Welcome, everybody. So, what we have on today, a pretty busy schedule, but Helen is going to share the successes so far, which are just amazing. Then I'm going to talk you through some of the steps that we can take to take a bite out of our food footprint and why it matters so much. And then Rich has got news hot off the press about the tree planting competition, and then the moment of truth so far. But we are only halfway through. Helen's going to share the company leaderboards, and we are going to hear some stories from our race participants, and then Helen's going to share what's coming next, and then we'll officially close the meeting at 12:30. But we thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to share any ideas together about encouraging sustainable eating. So anything that you've seen worked, any innovations, anything exciting, any questions, that'd be a great time to have a chat together about that. So Helen, over to you. This is just amazing.
Yes, so I wanted to share, first of all, our members. So since last week, we've had an increase of over 20% in members. So we've seen 92 new people join. So hopefully some of you are on the call and we'll be getting excited about all of the activity that we've done this week. We've also seen step activity, which is, just to remind you, it's the counts of all the steps that we've tried and the steps that we've completed. So every time we go in and take some action in a step, that's what step activity is, and we've seen that grow to over 5,000 now from which is over 1,700 additional pieces of step activity. But the biggest area that we've seen is that you guys not only have been able to take steps, but you've also found time to complete the steps as well. So we've seen 2,000, almost 2,000 steps completed since we started the race. So absolutely fantastic results. And if you wanted some step inspiration, these are some of our most popular food steps that have been completed this week. So trying to not eat animal products no more than once a week. So that's if you have a typical diet of eating meat and dairy. It's a great one to try and cut back and just try and do it. Just try and eat animal products once a day. You realise how much you eat them when you do try and do it, though. Buying sustainable source fish, that came up last week, I think, in terms of our Protecting Nature session. So that's all about finding the right labelling or asking at our fishmongers or restaurants wherever you're eating fish, and then choosing seasonal fruit and vegetables. So I think we've sent some more details out about that today, but that's got lots of benefits in it and really is great to be eating things that are in season. They taste so much better.
That's brilliant. Really, really amazing results so far. It's fantastic to see all this climate action together. So this week, this lap is all about food and taking a bite out of our food footprint. So how much does food actually make up of our personal carbon footprint? So it's about a quarter. It varies, of course, we're all different, but in most wealthy nations, the average carbon footprint is around 10 tons. That varies, but that's broadly what it is. And food is about a quarter of that. So this is a really important part of what we can do to reduce our environmental impacts. And we wanted to get started with a little poll in terms of the different areas of food and where you think you have the biggest impact. So you can rank this poll should have popped up, and you can rank the order of what you think has the biggest impact at the top. So how it gets to you, transport, basically, food miles, packaging, and what you eat. It's good to see those results coming in. Well, you can just move them around with your mouse. We'll give it a couple more seconds. And it's good to see those responses coming in, and it's looking about even, actually. Very even. So thank you for sharing your responses so far. What is the answer? It's what we eat, and that does have by far the largest impact. But we'll have a look now at how things actually shape up. So if we start with the packaging piece, so it gets a lot of attention, rightly so, because of plastic. We see it everywhere. You know, in the supermarket, it's really, really difficult to do a plastic. I'd say pretty much impossible to do a plastic-free shop. We've got a no landfill shop no landfill shop step in Geeky, which is a tricky one to do. So if you manage to do that, that's amazing. Tell us how you do it. But overall, packaging makes up about 10% of the food footprint. So a good way to address this part of it is recycling everything that you can, and going for minimal packaging where you can. The next bit is transport. So again, that gets a lot of focus. Food miles got a lot of focus probably 10, 15, 20 years ago when they first came on the radar, when we realized our food was coming from all over the world. And this is a good one to focus on. This is again around 10%, just thinking about buying locally. Air freighting can make a massive difference. Luckily most air freighting of food is reducing, but if food is air freighted, that means it has a big footprint. But you can see here with this delicious looking sausage dog, food makes up, that what we eat and the choices that we make is about 60% of the total footprint. And this can be quite surprising, but it's emissions come from, on the farm, from the energy needed to grow the crops, to raising animals, and then also dealing with the waste that comes about. So when we think about what we eat, I thought it'd be interesting just to dig into a few different food types and see how they vary. So most fruit and veg have a carbon footprint of around 1 kilo of carbon to every kilo of food. Now that does vary. So for example, your tomatoes are grown in a heated greenhouse, they will have a bigger footprint than tomatoes grown where the sun's done all the heavy lifting. But fruit and veg are typically pretty low carbon, pretty much as low as you can get. Now, if we go on to another type of food, plant-based meats, now these are growing massively in popularity. In all supermarkets now you can find all sorts of different plant-based variants. These would be about 2 times the footprint of normal fruit and veg, and that's just because of the processing and the manufacturing. Next up, fish, about 3 times higher than plant-based meats, and then chicken and pork a little bit higher again. And then cheese, surprisingly, is actually higher than chicken. So while yogurt and milk are lower, because cheese requires so much milk to create, relatively small amount of cheese, that's why it's much higher than milk or yogurt is. But many of you won't be surprised to see that the big one is red meat, and this is because of the feed that's required for the cattle and the lamb, but also because they produce methane, just because of the way their digestive systems work, and methane is a really potent greenhouse gas. So as a result, if you compare the two, the fresh fruit and veg to red meat's about 30 times in terms of carbon footprint. And if you put it another way, for any beef burger that you might eat, you'd need to eat about 6 kilos of chips, which I think, even for the best eaters might be a bit much. So it's just helps put that in context. And there are lots of steps and suggestions in terms of, changes that you can make here that will make a difference, but don't necessarily mean you've got to cut everything out. And we've definitely seen, as a result of sort of growing awareness around more plant-based options, a massive explosion in all sorts of different plant-based products. So we wanted to ask you whether, how many of you have ever tried a plant-based milk? So I'm just going to pop up a little poll here. So if you just give it a tick or a cross, tick if you have, and cross if you haven't. And it'd be interesting to see how many on the call have tried a plant-based milk. In some places, there are a million different varieties, and in some places, no choices at all. So it's definitely depends where you are and what the options are. So all you need to do is tick that box to let us know whether you have. Has it come up?
Yeah. So it's saying 89% of responses have actually tried a plant-based milk and 14% haven't. That's what I could see.
How about if you liked it? What are we seeing there, Helen?
At the moment, we've only had a couple of responses in. Oh, less clear on this one. It's closer to 50-50. So we've got 57% actually liked it.
Interesting. Yeah, and it is so much of these things about personal taste, aren't they? So if you did like it, then do you have any recommendations? We're going to pop up a word cloud to see which ones you guys might recommend in terms of type or brand.
Oh, it says
Anything.
the poll's closed.
Oh,
Might just be
that's
for
no
me.
good, is it? Thank you. Let's try again.
No,
Oh, it looks like it's working.
Oh, I can't see it. Oh, maybe it's just mine.
We've got, what have we got? We've got Oatly. Yeah, I have to say I like Oatly. Almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk. It just shows how much there is, isn't it? And Minor Figures. It's like, is that a brand? I haven't heard of that one. It's just, I mean, you see in the supermarket, the shelves are just as, you know, rammed with different types and different brands. So thank you for sharing those. Over to you, Helen, for some step suggestions.
Yeah, so it looks like most of you have, but if you haven't tried a plant-based milk, then hopefully that's given you some options to have a go at, looking at that word cloud. And it doesn't have to be milk. Milk is a really popular one, and actually from the data we've gathered, we did a blog on it as well, which we could pop in the chat. But oat was definitely the best in terms of its impact and the taste. Well, it's my personal favourite as well, so I would say that. But there's lots of other options as well as milk. So there's yogurts, burgers and sausages and mint seem to be really popular ones. I'm still yet to be convinced about cheese, I have to say. Vegan cheese is not something that I've been able to get on with. But if anyone's got any recommendations on that, please drop them in. But the great thing about that step is that you can do it on your next meal or your next time you have a cup of coffee. Just pop it in and then you can tick off that step as already done. And this is just some great advice, we think, from Michael Pollan, who is a US nutritionalist. We like this because it's really easy to remember. Just basically saying, you know, don't eat too much, don't eat more than you need, eat mainly plants, and not processed food, not too much processed food. And actually that is, if you look at the advice from the World Health Organization, that's pretty much exactly what they say, but in a less easy to read and easy to remember format. So this is why we like it. And whilst you are experimenting with plants and plant-based dishes, you can also have a bit of social time as well. So this is one of my favourite steps because you get to hang out with a friend or family whilst eating a little bit healthier and showing them that you can make one of your favourite meals. If you think they won't go for plant-based, you don't have to tell them it's plant-based. You just have to tell them you're cooking them a delicious meal. And people are a lot more responsive to change when it comes from someone that they know and trust. So don't break their trust. Don't tell them it's not plant-based, but you know, you don't have to mention that. So if you've got a top tip for a plant-based alternative, then do pop that in the chat as well. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Helen. And of course, what we eat does have a big impact, but what we throw away also is a real important one actually to think about. So we wanted to just ask you what single word what springs to mind when you think about food waste. It can be absolutely anything. So let's see what it makes you think. We've got some, wow, they're strong words. Yeah, I think I remember once I was walking around Brighton after Christmas and I saw a whole chicken just thrown out in the street that somebody had just not cooked. And I have to say, these moments sort of stick with you and it's like, my goodness me, what a terrible, terrible waste. So what can we do about it? I think this just really highlights here why we need to address food waste, because there's a lot of food inequality. You know, we see it in our own countries, we see it all over the world. It's a big problem. So if we can reduce food waste and that makes sure that people get the food they need. That would be a really good outcome. But just thinking about food waste in our own lives, on average in the UK, people, or an average family, wastes about £450 a year throwing out food that's edible, which equates to about our body weight in food. But a body weight of an adult every year. And it is about 6% of total greenhouse gas emissions. So that's everything from food being produced on the farm, all of the inputs to make the food for us, right through to it rotting in landfill. So it's a really good one to think about, and you don't have to make any changes to your diet at all. So over to you, Helen, for some nice suggestions.
Yes, so food waste is one of the worst things that we can put into landfill because it breaks down anaerobically and releases methane, which is one of the more potent greenhouse gases. So what are the ways that we can do to reduce it? So if you have more food waste than kind of peelings and shells, then a great thing to look at is how you can cut back on that food waste. Some of the most costly things we throw away are meat and fish and prepared meals, so like readily prepared meals. So if we can focus on those, focus on the expensive things and things that you see yourself thrown away again and again, then that's a great way to kind of save money and save our food waste. Sharing unused foods as well. So I know in the UK we've got some great apps. So Olio, Too Good To Go. But if you know any more that are local to you, then please drop them in as well. But they're a great way to not only get rid of food waste that's going to go off that that you're not going to be able to eat, but also if you wanted something as well, get on those apps and have a look, because I know there's a lot of restaurants that give to Too Good To Go as well. So if you need anything on there, it's always a great one. And then there's also making meals with leftovers. So really, I find this really satisfying. So if you've got lots of fruit and veg left over, then making smoothies or soups, or just throwing lots of veg that's about to go off into a stir fry, or maybe throwing things into an omelette, I think is another good one that we've had suggested before. And then also, if we do have some food waste left over, then composting is also a really great one to do, especially for our peelings, and gives lots of nutrients back to the land.
Thank you, Helen. And as you can see here, so much of it's about what we put on our plates. So just making the right amount is a really good way to reduce food waste. So we've got a little food waste calculator for you as well that we'll drop in the chat, which you can put in what how much you're throwing away and what that means in terms of carbon emissions. So that is quite fun. And literally it's just like pop in a couple of figures and it'll turn it out for you. So if you're curious, that's a good way to get a good measure of impact there. And then of course in Geeky Zero you can put in your food waste in your footprint area as well. But these are some guiding principles really to think about how we can more broadly cut our food footprint. So cutting out some of the really high impact, or cutting back on some of the really high impact ones, swapping out, so trying plant-based, swapping a burger for a plant-based one, or if you make a beef stew, having a bit less beef and a bit more something else, and then stopping as well, which is food waste is a really good one to stop and saves money too. So over to you, Rich.
Yeah, hi everyone. Most of you, I expect, were on the call last week and would have received our emails and WhatsApp messages where we've been encouraging you to share what you've been learning or doing, either as individuals or through your company. And we're doing a weekly prize giveaway where one post will be selected at random to receive trees planted in their name. So we were totally blown away by the breadth of different types of posts. People have been sharing what they've been doing personally or stuff that they've been learning, tagging in people across their networks. Some companies have celebrated their achievements as a collective, and others have been talking about what they've been doing as little extras beyond what they've learned on the steps. So it's been really, really amazing. And I think all of us here at Geeky are just so grateful and amazed by how much you are sharing across the week. But it is a random generator. So the random generator did pick out the post by Richard Hill from Network Rail. So in our first week, you, sir, are going to get some trees planted in your name and Network Rail's name. So well done. that also helps tick off another step as well, I think, or you can update your footprint. So we are running that competition every week, so do keep sharing and about what you're learning and what you're doing. And we're just trying to do something a little bit extra this week because it's a food focus, and I think everybody loves talking about what they're eating. You constantly see people taking photos of what they've cooked that night and put it on Instagram. And while I appreciate popping tonight's dinner on LinkedIn probably isn't the most usual or appropriate use of the platform, we'd still love to see what you're eating and what you're doing and what swaps you're making. And if you haven't already joined the WhatsApp channel, do join that and pop in some lovely pictures. And what we're hoping to do as a little extra competition is create a geeky recipe book or just an inspiration piece around all the lovely food that you've been cooking. So here's some suggestions already that have come in on WhatsApp and from the geeky team ourselves, what we've been eating. So yeah, keep posting, keep sharing, and you're creating an incredible impact across social, which is we're already seeing is inspiring other organisations who want to take part and join in and cut carbon.
Thank you, Rich. And now, drum roll, over to Helen. How's that podium looking?
Oh, this is my favourite bit. So I can reveal that we still have in the lead Stage 50. So they are the storming ahead, I think. We got a request last week, I think, to put the actual step activity numbers on here. And as you can see, Stage 50 are leading the way, but the next kind of 2 to 5 areas there on the podium are very, very close. There is only 1 point in it. So we're talking like 25.4, 25.5, like they're very, very close. Yeah, so great to see so much competition going on. And I think I'm handing over back to Joe to hear from Stage 50 on how they're doing those fantastic results.
Oh, thanks, Helen. So we have Lawrence McCormack here from Stage 50 as Head of Operations, and Stage 50 is a bespoke studio that creates all sorts of amazing films and TV shows. So they've worked on the Ghostbusters film that is coming out next year, upcoming George Clooney Boys in the Boat, and also Helen's favourite show, Sort Your Life Out from Stacey Solomon. So, Lawrence, how have you guys done it? I mean, it's just incredible to see so much action. What's your secret?
Well, I could say that there's a £50 incentive for the person on the leaderboard at the end of the month, or I don't let anyone go home until they've actually engaged in about 6 or 7 steps per day. But it's not. We've just got an incredible team here. And the journey with Geeky started when we started our Albert accreditation submission earlier this year.
And Albert's a sustainable production accreditation.
Sustainable production, yeah. And because we're such a small team, everyone has kind of got involved in that process. Everyone's dipped in here and there, and being able to, once we, found out about Geeky as well, everyone was engaged in the sustainability journey and wanted to get involved in the geeky part as well. So yes, there's a bit of healthy competition which drives it, and like I say, we are a small team. There's 2/3 of our whole team are actually part of the geeky process. So yes, there's healthy competition, which is great. And it gives us, everyone's getting engaged, and it gives us some an opportunity to start conversations with each other about our own lifestyles and our own habits, and trying to not compare, but and just see where we fit in the sustainability part of what we do.
Well, it's brilliant. Have you got any tips for others on the call that you think will help nudge up that steps activity?
Yeah, the £50 reward at the end of the month, a good one. No, I think that's, it's about having that conversation, having a driver behind it, and Albert was a great driver for us to get on to start this process. But it's constantly having conversations about it, and there is a lot of conversation in the office. We work in an open plan office environment, and there are constant conversations. We're always considering how the person at the top of the tree gets to the top of the tree, and asking them questions and finding out what they're doing. But no, everyone's being honest, and everyone's doing their bit. And it's just good. We're all from different backgrounds. We've all got different home lives. So it's interesting to just see how, some people are engaging with just their partners. Some people are trying to engage with just their children and help them with the process as well. So it's really interesting to see how it's moving along.
Oh, that's brilliant. And it's great to see the team in the background. So
Yeah.
you guys are rocking. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, and keep it up. We're looking forward to continued actions over the next 10 days or so, and of course beyond. So I'm going to hand back to Helen, who is going to tell us what is coming up just before we close up the sort of main meeting. And of course, anybody who would like to here we go. We've got the midweek podium, and we are going to go on to what's coming up next week. Over to you, Helen.
Great. Yes. So next week we have got our final sad face, our final week, which is all about speaking up for the planet. So that's all about us finding our own individual voice and our own individual action to help us feel like we are doing more for the planet. The team captains will get daily prompts into their inboxes, as we've been doing this week, and also you can find more information on the resources page, which we will pop into the chat as well. And then we'll have our live session to support that at 12 o'clock on next Wednesday, the 22nd. And just to remind you, these 2 dates for your diary. So these are the last 2 live events. We've got the Speaking Up for the Planet event, where we will have obviously an update on the leaderboard, an update on our progress, and we will also be hearing from our guest speaker, Climate Voice. So they're a US-based organisation who help employees use their voice and their influence to encourage and advocate for climate positive policy. So they will be really great for us all to hear from. And then we've got the closing event, the closing ceremony as well, where we will announce our winners, and also some highly accredited people as well, who may not have got up to the top of the leaderboard with STEP activity, but there's lots of other activity that we've seen as well. So it'd be great to do some shout outs and celebrations to many of you, and I can't wait for that. And we'll also be joined by Melissa Wilson, who will share her story, her personal journey from being a GB rower to climate activist to founder of Athletes of the World. And we'll also be hearing from Paul Dickinson, who is the host of the podcast Outrage and Optimism. And if you haven't heard of it, it's a really great one to put on your list. And we've got a step for it as well, which save it until next week. Don't take that step this week. Save it until next week. And he's the founder and chair of CDP. Yeah, and a fantastic guy to listen to, very inspiring. So we'll pop the links in the chat, and we'll also probably send them throughout all of next week just to remind you and nudge your teams. And finally, just as a bit of a takeaway, this is just to kind of recap everything that we've gone through today and things that we couldn't fit in. So we'll pop it into the chat. Please feel free to share it with your teams and share it with whoever. Share it with yourself as a reminder of different things that you can do.
Thank you all so much for being so amazing in terms of what we can do for the planet. And I think what is just so inspiring is that just imagine if everybody around the world did this, how much impact we could have. It's just so amazing to see. And yeah, keep them coming, and we'll see you next week, and keep sharing in the meantime. Thank you all so much.